Hi, Tina.
Hi, Greet.
And thank you so much for taking your time to talk to me.
It's a
And
pleasure always.
oh, good. Well, this is something new, trying to set up a meeting via Zoom because times are different. And
Mhm.
I wanted to talk to you a little bit about what we guys do, you and I, we do with our work for the highly gifted children and their families with
Mhm.
counseling and therapy.
Yep.
And what I know is you've been counseling gifted for how many years?
Probably maybe about 8 years now, something like that.
And you also you've done the World Game training.
Yes, I did that in Denmark, which was
Yes.
wonderful.
And you actually use it quite frequently, right?
Yes, I mean, it got a lot more difficult during COVID because, obviously we're on Zoom, very difficult to do the World Game on Zoom. But when I'm with clients, prior to that, I was doing it with all of my clients.
Wonderful. Well, I think that you've gained throughout the years a lot of experience with the children and the adults as well as we have. And I'm just very curious and how you experience their inner lives.
Oh, the inner world of the gifted. Yeah. Well, I see, there's so many different aspects to giftedness, but I'll just say some of the things that I experience with the kids that I work with is, one is a lot of times they struggle with anxiety. They're very, not all of them, but many of them are very kind of hyper aware of what's going on around them, and they worry about what people think about them. They worry about being judged. Again, this is not all gifted kids, but this is a lot of them. And I think they're also taking in a lot of stimuli that they're responding to that we don't ever even think about. Yeah, and then many of them really struggle with that cognitive hyperactivity where their mind just cannot rest. It's hard to sleep at night because they just keep thinking. Yeah. So, and yeah, I mean, another interesting thing about working with the gifted, again, nothing can be for every kid, but so many of them think really globally or really broadly about things. They're not just thinking about this is my life and my world, but they're thinking about what's going on in the greater world, which can weigh heavily on them as well, because
Yeah.
it just puts a lot more in there on
We
their
also
mind.
have the same thing here, so that's actually not a cultural difference. it's it's
Yeah,
it's 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 very it's also amongst us. And
yeah,
the most important thing about this overexcitability thing, that you enter a room and you can kind of sense if people like you, or you sense the emotions of others, or the big concern about what's going on with the universe, or what's about our environment. Are we thinking clearly? Are we doing the right thing? Do I have to eat meat, or should I just
yeah.
stop doing it, and so forth? So it's quite the same. So it's and
Hmm.
I think this is also why it's easy to work with amongst it doesn't really matter whether you're from Colorado or if you're from Australia. It's actually the same thing with these children. As soon as their minds go off,
Yeah,
it's that's the struggle.
yeah.
So
Giftedness crosses everything, doesn't it? It crosses geographic location, it crosses culture, it crosses everything. I mean, their giftedness it's the similar experiences no matter where you are. Yeah.
when I started working with this, it's 21 years ago, almost 22 years ago. We always said it was these children, they had some capabilities, but we didn't really know what it was. And we were not very good at saying this is something with intelligence and the way of thinking, that you are just way different in the world than,
Hmm.
well, as soon as you're above the IQ, then it's, and that's where I just mess things up. And this is where you have to do
You're
something with your
fine.
recording.
Just pick it up. You're fine.
Okay. So I was just wondering, how did you come into this therapeutic world with the gifted?
Well, I've worked with kids my entire adult life. So I've always done some kind of therapeutic work with kids. I've done different types of things, but gifted kind of came into my life with my own kids, as it does for many of us that end up going into the field of giftedness. You know, we have our own experiences and we see our own kids struggling with different aspects of giftedness, and we realize this is a thing, right? This is something that I mean, I know before my children started having their own experiences, you know, I didn't really even understand the gifted thing. I really didn't have a concept of what it meant and what that inner turmoil looks like in gifted individuals. So yeah, my children led me down this path.
Oh, well, the same here.
Yeah.
And it was actually my son's kindergarten. They called me. He was in a German kindergarten and they called them sunshine children. So I was glad they did that, because sometimes I thought the sky was quite dark.
Yeah, right.
So, yeah. Well, some of these children, as we talked about, they also have some problems with the emotional control.
Yeah, definitely.
The social emotional side. You work with this as well, don't you?
Yeah, I mean, they have a lot of, again, we can't say it for all of them, but many of them, I know a lot of the kids that come to me, it is on this emotional intensity, like they erupt like a volcano, right? Their emotions are, they're so reactive to what's going on, to the stimuli that they're taking in, basically. And it's overwhelming, and they just have these huge responses that can be very difficult to manage and to cope with as a parent, and also in the classroom.
Yeah. The classroom, because usually what we have here is that sometimes they don't even react in school, but when they come home,
yeah,
everything is just the wildest thing. So I know you also do family therapy as well as we do.
Yeah.
And the families you have, are they resourceful? Do they find you because they know they have to go for this, or does anyone recommend you, or how do you work with the schools?
Well, generally there's some issue that's arisen for someone to contact me, right? Like something has come up, and so I get referrals from lots of different sources. I do have the schools that refer me, and then sometimes parents will be looking online, or they'll be talking in the community or whatever, you know, kids, I think people come to me in different ways and for different reasons. But I think that family component is so important, because I think it's a pretty rare thing when you have a gifted child that just shows up without any giftedness in the family system. I mean, I can't say that is always the case, but so often you've got a gifted, you know, you've got parents that are gifted that are dealing with their own intensities and their own anxieties and their own struggles, and then they're trying to parent this really intense kid, and it clashes. It's really, really hard. So I think that family component is really important.
Yeah, well, we think the same here, and the awful thing is sometimes that you have a gifted child, but you don't really recognize the giftedness because of the whole attitude thing.
Oh, yes.
And they may also struggle with something else. So as soon as they start doing a whisk test, you actually have to be quite alert doing these tests in order to figure out if this could be a gifted child, just with some social emotional struggles, or it might be something with audio or vision or anything. It's very important to be quite interested in what's going on. So we love being detectives when we do this with the children. So I kind of guess
And I don't do testing myself. Like I don't do the whisk, but I know exactly what you're talking about, is that it's someone that is administering these type of things really needs to see the child and take time and be able to go into their world a little bit, because these kids do not respond well to being drug into our world, right? Like they need to be seen, and they need to have that. They need to feel like they can trust the person, for sure.
Absolutely. I think also the testing sessions, I remember, I think it was you who had a child that did the world game and also started building on the couch.
Yes.
Yeah.
That was one of the neatest ones. Like he built the village around himself. He put himself in the middle of the world game. It was fascinating. Still to this day, one of the most interesting ones I've seen. Yeah.
It's quite misunderstood, this whole thing about this child has to sit down straight forward and do the test. It's all feel like doing it. So yeah, I like that.
Yeah.
So you've been counseling gifted children now for 8 years and probably more, because you did something with other children before that and before you even recognized
Right, exactly.
Yeah. So I was just thinking if you could name some of the challenges or just one of the characteristics of the challenges that these children meet, what would they be? What could they be?
So one of the challenges, I'll start just talking and you let me know if I'm answering your question, I guess. But one of the challenges that I see are for kids who are highly imaginative. Their mind is just vivid and rich with all kinds of fantasy. And so for those kids, it can be very, very difficult to sit in school and focus because their inner world is so much more exciting and interesting than what's going on in the classroom, right?
Yeah.
And the imagination can take us on a lot of different journeys. I mean, when a kid is highly imaginative, they also need to figure out how to harness that sometimes too. But we also need to provide more room in our society for that to be able to just be free a little bit too, right? I mean, it's like we shut that down. We try to shut it down. Kids can go through their entire day and not have an opportunity for us to give them permission to be imaginative. And I think that's a sad thing. So, I mean, that's one type of kid. There's also the kids with the high, a lot of times with high sensory needs as well. A lot of the gifted kids that I see do have the high sensory things where, they're really irritated with their clothing or, just the things that we may take for granted and just it's part of our day or whatever. They have big impacts on them,
Sounds,
so it's a big thing.
Smells.
Yes. Yeah. All of that. Yeah. And again, that anxiety piece is so difficult, such a hard piece too.
So can I be a little provocative asking you, so can there actually be giftedness without any achievements?
Absolutely. Absolutely. Because I think our society has gotten really confused about what learning means. We have lost sight of learning. We are, so much of our education is about, it's about memorizing and teaching a specific thing, and they're learning to regurgitate information. But I don't want to say always, but a lot of times they're not enjoying the thrill and the joy of real just learning and exploration and all of that. So I think quite often we see gifted kids who drop out of school, who are struggling in school because they are just not stimulated in that way. Like they want to explore, they want to be out in the woods discovering things. And, we sometimes shut that down and stifle that.
Yeah. But we also have it here that it's actually, again, not a cultural difference, that we actually, we celebrate the end result.
Yes.
Instead of the process of how to get there.
Yes.
And all these detectives are lost on the way because we only want the hard workers, but the detectives are actually the ones, the scientists figuring out how to solve all the problems with cancer or the environment and pollution and so forth. So it's we're trying to figure out how to advocate for these children in order to see them as not being difficult and as a problem, but more as a resource of getting to a different type of goal.
Absolutely. I love how you put that about being the detective. That's great. Yeah.
So, well, I know that the world is shut down, and I know that maybe in half a year we may be so lucky that we will see one another again for another conference for the gifted.
Oh, that would be so wonderful.
Yeah, and where we could present the world game again to others, because now it's really getting into good work, trying to present this to other people, how to use it with the children. And we just can't wait. We have a hunger and an urge.
Yes, I know.
So,
me too.
Yeah. But thank you so much for taking your time talking to me. That was really nice. And I hope that we can have more of these talks. Although it's quite new to me, I just, let's try it again.
Let's do it. This was fun. I enjoyed it. It's always good to see you.
Oh, good. Enjoy the snow in Colorado.
Yes. And enjoy the bikes in Denmark.
Will do. Bye-bye.
Bye.
Uh,